much for joining us today. My name is John Busch with Levitan. I am also for the California Energy Alliance, the Codes and Standards Improvement Committee Chair. Here with us is Michael Scalzo from NLCAA, as well as Leslie Nardoni from ICF, who's representing CalCTP on this call. We're here today to talk about specifically acceptance testing and specifically what part acceptance testing plays in the California Title 24. So Michael, before we get started on this and dig into really acceptance testing, can you give us a little bit of information on, what is Title 24, specifically Part 6 that we're going to be referring to through this presentation?
Well, Title 24 is the California Code of Regulations, also known as the California Building Standards Code, which was established back in 1978. California has its own set of building codes, which have adopted other parts of national codes like the National Mechanical Code, the National Electrical Code, and brought them into their own kind of building standards. The California Code covers all requirements and aspects of construction from the design all the way through turnkey and completion. It consists of 12 different parts, and Part 6 covers the Energy Code, which covers the requirements for lighting controls, which is updated every 3 years. Now, Part 6 doesn't cover just lighting controls, but today we're going to stick to lighting controls. In Part 6, we also have like mechanical and electrical and some other requirements. Now, why does California have their own energy code? Well, California Energy Code's designed to reduce wasteful and unnecessary energy consumption in new and existing buildings. And there is no other national energy code, so they have had to implement their own. It is proven the state's building energy efficiency standards is basically, which is what the energy code is, has saved Californians billions of dollars in reduced electricity bills through code compliance over the term since it was implemented back in 1978.
Leslie, can you give us a little bit of input on, the code itself and what we can do to make it better, or what we're doing to make it better?
Well, the lighting control codes that we're using under non-residential buildings and why we're using them includes the Building Energy Efficiency Standards, or BEES. This is our state building code that, as Michael mentioned a few minutes ago, reduces wasteful and unnecessary energy consumption in our newly constructed and our existing buildings. That code is updated every 3 years, which is what we refer to as our code cycle by the California Energy Commission. We also rely on the non-residential appendix, or the NA7, which are the installation and testing codes. NA7 covers installation and acceptance procedures, roles and responsibilities, and the requirements for certain controls and equipment that are installed in our non-residential buildings. Title 20 is used to determine if a product installed meets the appliance efficiency regulation. Finally, we have the compliance manual, and although the compliance manual is not code, it is a very useful reference tool that complies with the Energy Code. It's a guide that supplements both BEES and NA7 to help all parties involved in the acceptance test process, which includes just a few engineers, designers, building enforcement agencies, contractors, building owners, etc., to both comply and enforce the building energy efficiency standards.
No, I appreciate that. Michael, she used the term compliance. What does compliance mean?
So we have code compliance to ensure that the design, the installation, and the functionality of the lighting controls are within the California Code, Energy Code requirements. This is done through various different documents, basically 3 documents that we're going to discuss for lighting controls. We're going to talk about the non-residential certificate of compliance. It's basically we call it the NRCCs. This is for the designer to document that the plans and specifications meet the requirements of the Energy Code. And with the plans and specifications that are submitted to Plan Check, these accompany those documents so Plan Check can verify that that design meets the Energy Code requirements. The next set of forms that we're going to talk about are the Non-Residential Certificate of Installation, the NRCIs. This is the installer documenting that they have built a code-compliant, energy-efficient project that will pass the acceptance testing. And then the last set of forms are the Non-Residential Certificate of Acceptance, the NRCAs. These are the forms that are generated by the acceptance test technician, which is basically the person who, it's the final step of a person certified to test the lighting controls to ensure that they meet the requirements of the various different energy codes. These acceptance test technicians, or ATTs, generate these NRCA forms. They add them to the NRCI forms, and those are provided to the building inspector, so the C of O, the certificate of occupancy, can be generated.
That's great information, because, you know, that term acceptance test technician, I think that's something we'll cover a little bit later in the presentation, go into a little more detail. But Leslie, how does the acceptance testing benefit the California Energy Code? What benefits does it bring?
Well, the benefit is that a certified acceptance test technician is going to ensure that builders are using the most efficient technology in construction. This is important because the proper installation practices of advanced lighting controls, we know it has the potential to improve energy efficiency in our commercial buildings. It is going to help the state achieve energy savings. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions. For the customer, there's a far more comfortable building, and for the building owner, it's going to equate to lower energy usage.
That's great, as far as
You're all good.
because we're really looking for those benefits, not just what we have to do, but what benefits that they bring. You know, Michael, if you can address what is acceptance testing, then how does that play into it? And, you know, I think a lot of people need to or want to understand how it differs from commissioning as well.
Yeah, testing and commissioning, those terms are loosely used and they get crossed over, and it creates a lot of confusion, but I'll try and clear it up here. So the acceptance testing process is the verification of the installation and operation of the actual lighting controls in non-residential buildings. This is a process that's done through visual inspection and hands-on functional acceptance testing to verify, to ensure that the lighting controls are installed and operating as required by the energy codes, and also maintaining certain manufacturer requirements. And this process of testing includes a plan review, a construction review, and then actual hands-on functional acceptance testing. It was created to help increase code compliance by ensuring that the lighting control systems are installed and operating correctly. Now, the project must pass the functional acceptance testing process, acceptance testing, before the C of O can be issued. Now, when we're looking at commissioning, commissioning is looking at more along the lines of the owner's, the OPR, the owner's project requirements. This is a process where a person not associated with the project, or in times actually there's people that are associated with the project, I can't say that, go through and verify that not only just the devices are operating and installed correctly, but they're verifying, the commissioning is verifying that the design and the intent of what the OPR was required is being met, and that they follow it all the way through from the design stage all the way through completion. So it's just another check process that's done on a project in addition to the acceptance testing.
You know, that's a great way to explain it. And I think, you know, one of the things that, in listening to that, one of the things that I think we always want to make sure and point out is that it is extremely important for the acceptance test technician, again, that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail, you know, in a moment or two. But as we look at that, we really need to understand that both the acceptance test technician and the commissioning agent really need to be on the same page. And it's a really great idea for them to work together and at least communicate. Leslie, what types of buildings and lighting systems require this acceptance testing?
There is a long list of buildings and projects that are regulated. That list can be found in detail under Title 24, Part 2 of the Building Code, but for the purpose of this roundtable, that would include all newly constructed buildings with no previous occupancy. It would be any additional alteration that adds new equipment to an existing facility, excluding healthcare facilities.
Great. No, I appreciate that. Michael, just, you know, kind of in closing on this phase, you know, can you give us an idea, can compare, you know, you said functional testing. Isn't that what's required with IEC, the International Energy Conservation Code, as well as ASHRAE 90.1? How does this acceptance testing differ from what's required by the IECC or ASHRAE 90.1?
Yeah, the ASHRAE and IECC acceptance testing is a little bit less dynamic of a process than we do in California. And the devices that they cover are occupancy sensors, automatic time switches, and daylight controls. They have a little less stringent requirements, and the individuals responsible for the functional testing can't be directly involved with either the design or the construction of the project, which is unlike California acceptance testing. The acceptance testing, California actually wants the designers and the installers to be qualified to perform that acceptance testing, because they figure if they're going to do the acceptance testing, they're going to ensure that design and installation has been done code compliant. So if we look at those 3 different tests that ASHRAE and IUCC offer, when we look at California, we have 5 different tests that they're going to perform. They're going to perform shutoff controls, daylighting controls, demand response controls, institutional tuning controls for PAFs or energy credits, and then they test outdoor lighting controls. So a bit more dynamic in California to ensure the energy efficiencies are being met here.
No, I appreciate that, and I think that you did a great way of addressing us. Well, anyway, thank you for joining us in this first part of this discussion. Please join us in part 2 of this presentation or discussion, where we're going to dig in a little bit deeper and just understand really what is an ATT, or acceptance test technician. But we're also going to add another one, another acronym, as we love to say, an ATE. So those of you that want to know more about what an ATE is, please join. But as for the acronyms on this call, NLCAA, Michael Scalzo, and Leslie Nardoni on behalf of CalCTP, we thank you for joining us in this, and look forward to speaking to you on part 2 of this presentation, where we dig in to figure out what is the acceptance test technician and ATE as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.